Hi, I'm Phil Lipoff. We begin with breaking news. Sources telling ABC News the House Ethics Committee has in fact voted to release its report on former Congressman Matt Gaetz. This comes less than 2 weeks after the House voted down an effort to force the report's release. The Ethics Committee was investigating allegations that Gaetz engaged in sexual misconduct, illicit drug use, and more. Gaetz has denied any wrongdoing. ABC's Jay O'Brien joins me now from Capitol Hill with more. Jay, first up, what's the latest?
Yeah, so what we know, Phil, is that multiple sources tell ABC News, including our Rachel Scott, our chief congressional correspondent, that the House Ethics Committee has voted to release this long report on Matt Gaetz, the product of a months-long investigation. And it was an open question up until this point if this report was ever really going to see the light of day. It was a flashpoint during Matt Gaetz's brief confirmation period where he was Donald Trump's pick to be the next attorney general. And it was a question as to whether or not senators and the general public would want to get their hands on this report as Matt Gaetz was being vetted for attorney general. But when Matt Gaetz dropped out of the running because he didn't have the support he needed amongst Republican senators, this report was essentially put back on a shelf of the House Ethics Committee, and it was unclear if it was ever going to leave that shelf because the House Ethics Committee has no jurisdiction into someone who is no longer a sitting member of Congress, and Matt Gaetz resigned his seat in Congress in order to become Donald Trump's pick for attorney general. But what the House Ethics Committee, according to sources, has done here at a meeting earlier this month was to vote to release this report. And that would have required Republicans crossing over party lines and joining with Democrats, at least one Republican doing so, to vote to release this report. Because the last action we saw out of this committee, Phil, remember, was that the panel was deadlocked. All the Democrats on the committee, 5 of them, because this is the only committee on Capitol Hill that has an equal number of Republicans to Democrats, 5 to 5. All 5 Democrats voted to release the report. All 5 Republicans on the panel, last we saw in any kind of meeting that the committee had that was released publicly, voted to keep it private. So in this other meeting that we're now learning from sources occurred earlier in this month, it appears one Republican crossed over party lines, at least one, voted to release this report, and this report now planning to be made public in the coming days now, Phil. We know, by the way, that what the House Ethics Committee has uncovered over this months-long investigation, according to reporting from our Will Staken here at ABC News, is allegations, as you said, of sexual misconduct, allegations that one woman said that when she was 17 and Matt Gaetz was a sitting member of Congress, he had sex with her. And according to sources who spoke to our Will Staken, this woman testified to that effect before the committee. We also know that there are allegations of Matt Gaetz paying for sex, and that the committee poured over Venmo records to that effect as well. All of that presumably contained in this report, which again, Phil, sources tell us the committee has now voted to release.
Yeah, and Matt Gaetz obviously knew this. He tweeted about it 15 minutes or so ago. I'm wondering, it's early on in the reporting, but what are you hearing from lawmakers about this?
We haven't heard anything out of lawmakers yet. We haven't heard anything from Speaker Mike Johnson. This is still quite late breaking. What we are hearing, though, to your point, is from Matt Gaetz, who has pushed back on this. Matt Gaetz has denied those allegations of sexual assault, sexual misconduct. He denied having sex with that woman who claims that he had sex with her when she was 17 years old. He denies paying for sex. And he points to the fact, as you see on your screen there in a tweet reacting to these headlines today, that the Department of Justice fully investigated these allegations in a separate criminal investigation that was conducted by the FBI, and the DOJ declined to bring any criminal charges. It was only after that decision by the Department of Justice that the House Ethics Committee, which is not a criminal body, not a legal body, but has purview over sitting members of Congress, decided to take up an investigation into these allegations, into Matt Gaetz, which again Gaetz denies, and now again Phil has voted to release the product of that investigation, this report.
Much more on this to come, and I know you have to get in touch with your sources now. Jay O'Brien, thanks so much on Capitol Hill.